Welcome back, friends, to the Adventure Starts Here podcast. This week, we played Off, a freeware game released in 2008 by two Belgian developers. This is all of our first time playing it, and to be very clear, we played the 2025 remaster, an important distinction that will come up repeatedly. Also, just to get this out of the way early, we had some audio issues as a result of our recording bot going into maintenance about halfway through the episode. I'll have a disclaimer up at that point, but just be warned, the audio quality will go down a bit. Regardless, I hope you enjoy the episode. All right, for this week, we played Off. I believe Thomas chose it. Would you like to explain your reasons for choosing it?
So it's a 2008 game. I think it was primarily developed by one guy plus a soundtrack man back in 2008. It was a very foundational inspiration for games like Undertale and things like One Shot and a lot of these other Tumblr slop RPG Maker games. And they recently released a remaster of it in August of 2025, and I figured that was the perfect time to give this thing a shot because none of us had tried it before.
I never even heard of it until you recommended it.
I had neither.
Yeah, I heard of it, but it's just because of Toby Fox, and Toby Fox talks about it basically anytime he does an interview.
Yeah.
Was this game like well-known, or was it like niche well-known?
I mean, it was like, it had a Wikipedia page well known, so I wouldn't say it was like, I don't know, in the dregs of the Starman forums somewhere.
It's just so interesting because this game, the original game was made in what, 2008, and I feel like I see maybe not direct references to this game, but like I see a lot of similarities, like even in fucking Clair Obscur with some of the ending stuff. I was like, whoa, this is weirdly similar.
I thought of Clair Obscur as well when I saw those two. It's like when there was like that world map that looked like a children's drawing, and it had like those two really. There's like a really fat character and a really tall, skinny one. That made me think of Expedition 33.
Interesting.
Oh right, yeah.
The person who made this is French, for the record.
Yeah, that is true, actually. I wonder if that rubbed off. That's a good point.
It might just be like French culture influence, or maybe some of them actually just played Off.
I don't know that Clair Obscur director guy's name, but he definitely seems like the type who would have played this game and gotten inspiration from it.
For sure.
Yeah, and like going off of that, I was curious to get your guys' general vibes on like your classical turn-based games. Like at this point, I feel like a lot of them are like pretty goddamn aged. Like it takes a game like Clair Obscur to like kind of innovate in the genre, do some new things. Obviously, have a really good narrative to like bring turn-based stuff back to the forefront. But like, what do you guys think of those classic games like Super Mario RPG, whatever else comes to your head, like Chrono Trigger? When you think of this kind of stuff, we haven't really done a game like that for Tash, I don't think. But like, just what are your like forefront opinions on them?
I definitely prefer strict turn-based over even like what is it called, like active time battle. I prefer just like super strict, like it's just turns personally. And that's why like out of all the old Final Fantasies, like 10 is probably my favorite, at least to play.
Yeah, I think active time battle was like a negative that Square did, because I think it kind of just gave like an illusion of an interesting system when it was just like turn based with a timer, which kind of made it more annoying to play, if anything.
Yeah, like any game I play that has like an ATB bar, I hope and pray that it has a like pause when it's someone's turn feature, because
Yeah.
when that shit keeps ticking when it's somebody's turn, that shit drives me fucking crazy. So I'm in the same camp as you, where I prefer strict turn-based, like Baldur's Gate 3, for example. But in terms of their agedness, I actually still love turn-based games. I feel like there are definitely aspects of agedness to them, but I feel like it all hinges on the game's balance and whether or not it is too easy. I feel like turn based games that are too easy just kind of become a really dull, boring slog. But there are turn-based games that do force you to think about like your approach to battles and stuff. And they're few and far between, but they do exist, and I think those are the ones that have aged fairly well. Or if they just have some like unique mechanics that make them kind of interesting. And I do think actually that Super Mario RPG falls into that camp.
Yeah, like I'm a huge Super Mario RPG fan. Like one of my favorite games for a long, long time was Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, which is directly influenced by Super Mario RPG. Like a lot of people would consider Super Mario RPG in the same category of games as the Paper Mario games, at least until like Super Paper Mario and shit. But um, no, yeah, I think Super Mario RPG is like one of the all timers for me. I reluctantly uh, paid $60 for the remake on my Switch, and you know what? It was steep, but I'm glad I did it because reliving my like nostalgia in that way was really nice. And the one thing I want to say when it comes to turn-based stuff is I don't know, I'm kind of okay with the what's it called? ATB, the real-time bar, whatever bullshits. I'm okay with them, and this is a lot of nostalgia speaking, but like in Final Fantasy VIII, I think it's a kind of fun little like min-max to like your squall hit his bar full and your enemy is doing a long animation, so you can hit circle a bunch of times to try and get your limit break while they're doing their animation. Like stuff like that I think is kind of cool. But if you're gonna have a strictly turn-based thing like Clair Obscur or Off or Super Mario RPG, whatever, you better or Final Fantasy X, you better have that fucking list of turn order. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose my mind. That is a requirement for me if it's strictly turn-based.
I kind of like the no turn order thing. It kind of like adds a layer of tension that like you don't know if you're faster than them or not.
Yeah, I agree with that actually. I can go either way. I like both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same. I'm pretty indifferent. I think I like both. I guess I do prefer having more info, but it's not like a deal breaker.
I think it'd be cool if a certain boss took away that shit. Like if it was some kind of like Psycho Mantis style boss, and then they were like, okay, the turn order's gone, kind of thing.
Yeah, like I think that the showing the turn order adds more depth than it doesn't because you like you can see it in Clair Obscur, for example, like with the CL and all of her buffs and stuff. Like there's a lot of ordering you can do when you have that in place as a mechanic, and like you're saying, you can manipulate it too.
I think it's just two different sides of the
Yeah,
same coin because it's like one, if that bar isn't there, can create a layer of dynamism where you just don't know what's going to happen. And like if you rely on a certain turn order happening before the boss gets their turn and that doesn't happen, that again creates some tension that can be enjoyable in some circumstances. Whereas having the bar there, I think, creates more of like a, I guess the immediate example that comes to mind would be like Slay the Spire, where it turns into more of like a computational sort of experience where like that extra layer of deterministic outcomes can it makes it makes for just a very different experience, I think. I don't think either one is really better than the other.
Yeah, it definitely depends on like the supporting systems because I can see like a very traditional JRPG that has its quote unquote difficulty centered around like a resource management, making sure that like your characters are topped up and you have enough resources to get to the next save point. Whereas something like Clair Obscur, a lot of those systems are related to like all the cool shit you can do in battle, and a lot of that does have to do with stuff like shield and like turn order manipulation. So in that kind of system, I think you would definitely be incentivized to have that turn order list.
Yeah, I also think that the modern convention going forward is just going to always be to have that turn list. Like I can't think of any turn-based game from like recent times that I've played that doesn't have that.
I think part of my issue too is that like most of the turn-based games that I play that I have enjoyed are usually like very nostalgia driven for me. I'm not really enjoying the gameplay all that much, and um like a lot of the tension you guys were describing and not being able to see the turn order is dissolved for me by how like tedious I find some of those turn-based systems. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that just gets back to the balance thing where like a big part of what makes a turn-based game work for me or not work for me is the power fantasy aspect of it. And what's really important about that is having the right curve. Because, like, a game like Claire Obscure, at least when I played it before they fucking nerfed Genki Dama, aka Stendhal, that power curve was really fucked up because it was just like you get to Act 3 and then all of a sudden, like, fucking Mael just goes off the chart. Whereas another game like Final Fantasy VIII, I find interesting because it's like a DIY power curve. Like you can impose limitations on yourself that will make that game as difficult or as easy as you really want it to be based on however you feel like challenging yourself. So, like turn-based combat systems are not the most engaging fun thing in the world, at least in the world of JRPGs most of the time, but I think if they can fulfill that like right power fantasy curve, and in the beginning I feel like a man just going into a basement and killing rats, and by the end of it I'm a fucking god, I think is like a big part of what makes them enjoyable for me.
I don't even think difficulty is necessarily a good thing in most turn-based RPGs, because usually when they're difficult, it just means that the battles take longer. It doesn't mean that the battles are more engaging. I think just the only thing that's important about making an actually good turn-based RPG is just having engaging systems inside of the combat.
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't even know if you would necessarily call Undertale turn-based, but that's a
Oh, it
perfect
is.
example where the turn-based nature is just a
Yeah.
shmup, and that makes it fun.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's like a perfect example of like a weird hybrid style that kind of does like it's difficult but not in a way that's like fucking annoying. It's fun and engaging. And it's not that tough.
There is one thing that I will credit difficulty with in JRPGs, and that, like, if there's certain, like, obviously, I wouldn't want the game to be like hard the entire time, but if there are like certain like difficulty
Yeah.
spikes, that creates like a lot of shared stories that players can have, and I
Yep.
think that's pretty cool.
Exactly. I think you nailed it. I think that's like the perfect thing, right? Like when there's certain bosses where it's like, fuck, this was crazy. But if every boss you fight is like 20 minutes and then there's a boss that's 30 minutes, it's not as memorable. Where it's like easy, 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 and then you run into pick whatever, like Materia Giba from Final Fantasy 7 or something like that.
All of that is super true, and I just can't help but think how perfect of a turn-based game Undertale is applying all of
Yeah.
that to it. Because like what you're saying feels directly applied to the genocide route, and then if I'm thinking of like the normal route where you just have a lot of like normal gameplay or whatever, or I guess even the pacifist route, it's all very consistent. There is not like a like one singular super tough boss. They're all
hmm
pretty like well balanced.
There's one, which is Sans on the genocide route, right? Like that's the tough boss, but there's still like Omega Flowey. Like there's definitely points, even like Muffet for some people, like depending on what level of gamer you are. Like there's a lot of points in that game. But yeah, for sure.
So I would push back on the idea that difficulty in JRPGs is bad because they just involve like longer fights or whatever. Because I think that there are like plenty of ways to actually make them more interesting that aren't just that. Like the perfect example that comes to mind right now would be a lot of SMT games, but I guess specifically the one in my head would be Nocturne, where a lot of the fights in that game and shit like revolve around the assumption that you're going to be using like buffs and debuffs and shit. And I think that that's normally where like you can create some more like interesting ideas is by assuming that the player is going to be playing in some sort of like optimal way and punishing them at least in part, maybe not wholly, for not doing that, and just like again imposing some degree of like mechanical or systemic knowledge that the player needs to like fucking vault over in order to actually complete the goal.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just think
but
it's a tough thing to kind of design, because they're like because of grinding. Like you can always overcome any difficulty in most JRPGs through just being a higher level. With like Undertale, again, found a way around that kind of cop out for difficulty.
Well, and that's why I brought up Nocturne too, because you can't just outgrind that game, can you? It's been a while since I've played Nocturne, but I don't think you can just like mindlessly grind and level up in that game. Like, I think it's just like not possible.
I don't know anything about SMT games.
I think you can, but regardless, even Nocturne has like one of those like infamous bosses that people tell stories about, which is the Matador, where he kind of is that kind of roadblock where you have to figure out that you need buffs and debuffs. So I think it may be technically possible to outgrind it, but I don't think many people will go through that.
Yeah, like you probably could, but it would be a nightmare to try and do that. And then, like, I imagine my head is telling me that another example of that, which this is a purely vibes based assumption, would be like the Xenoblade Chronicles games, which I'm saying because they're so fucking complicated that I feel like there's got to be something in there, but I've never been able to actually like penetrate that layer of contrived complication to actually fully understand how they work. But enough people love them that I assume that that's probably the case.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the specific difficulty of those games.
Well, another question I wanted to ask you guys, opinions on off notwithstanding. Thomas gave us this question, but what's a foundational or highly influential work from basically anything, could be like movies, music, games, whatever, that you think is just horrible? You hate it. You're sad that it is foundational in your particular medium. I can go first if you guys don't have one.
Oh, I
do-
have one.
I have one. I wouldn't say that I hate it. I just don't like it very much, and that's like old school rap. Like 11 times out of 10, I'd rather like I just wouldn't want to listen to something from the 80s or 90s. I'd rather just listen to like 21 Savage.
Man, that's
Do you have,
That's
like, a
hilarious.
interesting.
specific one? Do you have like a specific one that you
No, just
dread?
the entire thing.
Yeah, fucking Jurassic 5 was Ben's 9/11. I actually tend to agree with that though. I think I mean, I guess I'm glad that it existed because I don't think like the I don't know. There has to be like some sort of artistic through line from that to like southern rap or whatever, but yeah, it is dreadfully fucking boring to listen to. Did you ask me what mine was?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's fucking Ocarina of Time. What an overrated piece of shit. Honestly, that game just takes the most boring surface layer mechanics of every 2D Zelda game before it and piled on these super generic, boring ass, shitty dungeons, boring ass, shitty bosses. None of the items are interesting. None of the puzzles are interesting. That game is just not very good. But then they figured it out and made Majora's Mask, which is fucking awesome.
It really is a strange anomaly because like Majora's Mask is literally one of my favorite games ever, and the game before it, Link to the Past, had the exact same formula as Ocarina of Time. And yeah, I completely agree with you. It's so strange.
Yeah, it's like it's a weirdly uninspired game for what it is. Like I feel like they had to focus so much on like the tech side of things that the design side of things took a hit is kind of the way I read the situation. That's purely again a vibes based assumption, but it's just kind of how the game plays to me.
At least the music is still iconic.
Yeah, that's true. I cannot take anything away from the soundtrack of any of those games. It's fucking goated.
One for me is a movie. I'm finding more and more that I just can't fucking stand Christopher Nolan, and I don't really know if this would be considered foundational. Maybe you guys tell me if it is or not, but I can't stand Inception. I try to watch that movie because everyone raves about it on like fucking Reddit and shit, and I just can't get through it. I can't watch an hour of that movie without being bored to tears every single time.
Man, you and Mary would get along great. She fucking hates Christopher Nolan. She
Even though Interstellar
she
is so good.
she left Tenet like actively pissed.
Oh yeah, I was the exact same.
I'm willing to give Christopher Nolan a pass because of how much I love Interstellar, but I, this is not worth debating. But I don't necessarily know that I would call him like super foundational or influential. But I respect the take.
You got one, Jordan?
Yeah, for me it's also like Ben, where it's like I don't fucking hate it, but I don't understand why people like it as much as they do, and that's Mother 3. Like I think like the game starts really strong and then ends okay strong, and then the whole 18 hours of the middle is just fart jokes. It's just fart joke after fart joke after fart joke after fart joke, and that's why people love it, I think. But yeah, I
That
think it's just like an okay game.
It's funny that you mentioned the beginning like that because I never beat that game. I did only play like the first 3 hours and I thought it was awesome.
Yeah,
But
I
then
did the exact same thing.
you
but like
guys have you guys have the public opinion. That's what it is because the game starts out so strong and then it does nothing with it for 18 hours. It just nothing. It's just dick and fart jokes. You open up a chest and it plays a fart noise. You open up a chest and it's fireworks. Like that's it. So like your game opens, your fucking mom dies and it's fucking awesome, and then fuck all that. It doesn't matter for 20 hours.
You know what's crazy is like I remember you and I having this discussion last time, and my like gut reaction take was to be like, "What are you talking about? That game's so good." And then like after I thought about it for like 5 seconds, I was like, "I don't remember anything that happens in that game. Like after your mom dies and up to you fight shit, I might even be thinking of Earthbound. Fucking what's his name, Robo Porky or whatever the hell his name is. That is Earthbound. So I can't even keep Mother 3 straight. So yeah, I respect that.
Yeah,
I
I still
assume
think
you
it's
don't feel
fine.
that way. I assume you don't feel that way about Earthbound, though.
Haven't you not beat
Earthbound is
Earthbound?
better. No, I beat Earthbound. Earthbound is better than Mother 3 for sure, but I think it's just because the story is kind of good the whole way. Mother 3 story just falls off. Like nothing happens after your mom dies, and then before Porky shows back up at like the literal end of the game, nothing happens story wise at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think Earthbound is like leaps and bounds better than Mother 3. Like even prior to our discussion. But
Yeah.
Earthbound's also one of my favorite games of all time. It's also the grandfather of fucking Tumblr slops. So
I mean, I can't argue against it because I did have the exact experience that Sesh is describing, where I just got bored to tears after the intro, and I also have never been like super into Earthbound either. So
Yeah.
Mother 3 does have a fucking awesome soundtrack though.
Oh
That
yeah.
is one thing I will give it.
The
There's
soundtrack
this
and the visuals are awesome for both the games.
Yeah, for sure. And Mother 3 has this song that I always go back to. It's like my favorite song on the Game Boy Advance, probably. And it's just this like really short ambient drum loop with like a saxophone in the back, and it's just the random song that plays when you go into like the Magypsy's hut. Which, if you know, you know, but god damn, that song is fucking sick. I'm gonna link it in the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
well, with all of that being said, again, the game we played this week is off. And I'm wondering if some of these questions that have been posed are indicative of our overall feelings. So, what were the vibes on off this 17-year-old game that we played, a remaster that for some reason was a remaster that I really wish that I could have refunded after I had beaten the game.
Yeah, here's what
uh,
I want. Here's what I want everyone to remember before we say a single word about this game. It costs $15. We'll start there. Go ahead, take
how
it
much
away.
did the original one cost?
It was
Probably
freeware, I think.
zero. Yeah.
Bro, that is absurd. I'm mad now. I'm mad. I'm gonna try to refund this, even though I won't be able to. No, I mean, I like, I don't know. I just could not stand this game like off the rip. Like it feels like for me, it broke like every single sin that we've talked. Maybe not every single sin. I might be hyperbolizing there, but like every single sin that we've talked about during Tashes, like it has the overly verbose fucking cat that talks to you all the time that I just wanted to stab my eyes out every time I read his dialogue. It has like basically a completely incongruous, irrelevant narrative up until the last like hour or so of the game, in my opinion, at least. Like I've seen better pixel art in like a billion other games. Like I would even say that maybe Logic Bombs had better. No, that's going too far. I did not like
Is
the
it?
art in this game very much. The visual storytelling was cool in terms of like the color stuff that Thomas was talking about in our notes, but I don't know. This game was wholly unimpressive to me. And as much as we were talking about the soundtrack, like I can only remember one harmony from one song in my entire time playing this that was memorable at all.
All I can remember are the combat themes. I played very little with the original soundtrack. I just played with the remastered one because I just played on the ROG Ally. I didn't feel like modding it. And I really just don't remember anything out of combat tracks because whenever it was out of combat, all I remember hearing was just straight up just ambience. I don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
if that's like was the case with everyone, but I can't. I will give the combat themes credit though because they were boppy, at least to me.
Yeah,
You know what? I
the
do remember
normal
one. I
soundtrack
like the
sucks.
amusement park. Sorry.
I don't even remember that one. I was gonna agree with Ben. Like I don't remember shit about the field themes. I only remember the battle themes, and I actually think the remaster themes are better because Toby Fox made them, and I think that he's better than whoever the French guy who made the original one is. I think the electro, whatever it's called, electro funk, like main battle theme is like cool, but like it's not as cool as what Toby Fox made. I think.
Yeah, that song is like super overrated. People lose their fucking mind about that pepper steak song, but it is like it's just
Fine.
okay. Yeah, it's pretty good. There are songs on that soundtrack I like significantly more. Uh, although I will say I'm higher on the soundtrack than you guys are, mostly because I mean I just have kind of a general affinity for like ambient soundtrack shit in general. Like even I think it's the last act of the game where it's just like people nonsensically like whispering at you. Like I actually derive pleasure from hearing shit like that. But like there are some absolute banger tunes on the OG soundtrack, including the song when you fight Japhet. I'm gonna go with Japhet. That song is fucking awesome. Like to the point where they basically just like cribbed the entire like idea in the remake soundtrack because they were like, yeah, we we got to go with what they had originally because it's too fucking good.
I think that's kind of what the whole soundtrack is like listen to the song and then be like, okay, how can I make this mine while still keeping the original vibe?
Yeah. I don't think they did a bad job with the remake soundtrack. I think in some ways it was better. In most ways, I think I liked the old one more. I will say that I did just listen to the remake soundtrack like on YouTube, but I played the game with the OG soundtrack, which I'm sure makes a difference.
Was there an
Yeah, I did
option
the
in
same
the
thing.
game to do that?
No, you have to
No,
mod
you
it.
had to mod it.
Oh, that's dumb as hell.
It's because they couldn't get
There's
the
a
rights
reason.
from the original guy.
Yeah, there's like this whole story with the original guy where basically I dug up some Reddit post where he said that he didn't feel like it was right. There were like three main reasons. Number one, he didn't feel like it was right that they were charging money for it. Number two, Fangamer asked him to like basically stay on retainer to make new songs if they wanted to, and he was like, "I'm busy, fuck that." And number three, he said he was generally paranoid about signing contracts. So I think he's just a weird French guy who
Yeah.
didn't want to be bothered.
Well, I agree with all of those except for the last one. Those were all understandable except for the last one.
So yeah, they just couldn't hash out the negotiations with the guy to remake it. I think there was also something in there about um, he had used samples that he was worried about the legality of, even though Fangamer told him that they would like clear them for him and blah blah blah. But I don't know, he just sounds like a paranoid fella who didn't want to deal with the hassle, which I don't blame him.
Well, kind of following up on what we were talking about earlier with turn-based combats and such, how did you guys feel about this game's capital G gameplay when it comes to the combat with all of that in mind?
Worst ever.
Terabad.
I tolerated it at least. It wasn't hard, so I was okay with it for the most part. Although I did not go back to get the other ending purely because I didn't want to do the boss combat again.
I mean, I agree with Ben. I don't think it's that offensive. I think it's just super bland and boring, but it doesn't really get in the way other than just like it's like a time sink
I
that
felt
you have
I
to
mean,
turbo A through everything.
I felt like it got in the way in the purified zones where they kept throwing the like 2 and 3 secretary fights at me. And even though like basically all of the combat in this game outside of maybe 1 or 2 boss battles just like devolves into like mash regular
Yeah.
attack and get through it. But
Yeah.
like some of those secretary fights, like they would fucking confuse you every turn, and I actually would like lose fights against them.
Mhm.
And anytime that happened, and the game actually forced me to interact with the combat on like a deeper level, it made me actively pissed.
Oh
I
I
didn't
yeah.
have
think
that
that
experience.
like when I was playing early on, I think I was in zone 1 and you fight a bunch of those, I think they're called specter mites, the really little small dudes
Yeah.
that attack really fast. I knew this game was short and I didn't know if I was going to get through it because every time I got into combat with one of those things, I wanted to alt F4. Sometimes I did. It was just so miserable like because they attack so fast and even though their animations aren't super long, it's just like assaulting your ears with this high
Yeah.
piercing shrill that I don't want to hear. And like I'm not deriving any
Oh,
fun. It's like you're saying, I'm just spamming Z. I feel like this game needed a fucking auto battler for me to actually have fun. Like, my God.
This game waits way too long to give you an AoE attack.
Yeah, waiting until you have your last quote unquote companion to give you the AoE attack is just a ludicrous decision. Like either do that and start giving like the large enemy combats in the late game or like don't do what it did for the entire game and have those in every single area. Like, oh my God, that was just miserable.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I do like if I like sit back and think about it objectively, I do have to like realize that the combat in this game isn't like super offensive. It is just like what makes it so bad is just how bland and boring it really is in a game that is not otherwise good. So I can't abide by just how terrible it is. Like the only good thing in the game, I guess, does is derived from combat, which is looking at the enemy sprites, but yeah, that's about it.
yeah.
There's something that did really piss me off about the combat is that like identify skill. I forgot what it's called, but it's the one that like lets you see the information about the enemy. Like if you use it on a boss, it's basically useless because it just always says no weaknesses, and
Yeah,
that's it.
that's
All and I still use it just so I could see the life bar on the enemy, so I can tell how long roughly this battle is gonna take.
I mean, that's like the classic JRPG shit. Like, just don't use scan abilities because you never need to because you can just kill them by mashing A. That's like
Yeah,
peak early mid 90s style design of like, you don't need to know anybody's weakness because mashing A just beats everything.
Yeah, the first time I used that on a boss, it didn't tell me shit, and then I just never used it again.
Yeah, I never used it.
I think the only time I've ever like actively used like a scan ability in a game is Final Fantasy VIII because it's cool. That's all I
You
got.
get to rotate the model and everything.
Yeah, you get to rotate the model. It gives you a little bit of lore. I think it tells you what you can junk or draw from them. Like, yeah, it's tight. Every other game, whack.
there's also one thing I wanted to mention that you brought up previously, in that you said something about like purified worlds, and until you mentioned that, I didn't even know that those existed because I held W so hard. It never even occurred to me to even think about going back to the old areas.
So, yeah, I was gonna do the same thing, but what happened to me was I finished the first 3 acts. I went to the last one, and then it puts you in that house, and it seems like I couldn't progress. So I went back to the thing and I was like, well, maybe I just got to go back to the old acts and like see what happens. And they had changed, so I assumed I had to do them. And then I got so fed up. I was so close to just DNFing this fucking game in the middle of no, after I finished Purified Act 2, I was like I can't do this. Like I just absolutely do not have the will to go through another act of this. And I looked it up and turns out I didn't actually have to do them at all. So then I just fucking beelined for the ending because I didn't realize to skip that all I had to do was go back up into the hallway from the first save point of the last act.
Do you have to load a different save point? Is that how you get by that?
No, I think it's just like you just have to zone in and out. Like there's just triggers based on like when you leave the room and when you come back into the room.
Oh, okay. That's
I,
funny.
th- I, I think I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's the way it seems to work.
Yeah, I only went back to that shit like after I beat the game, the purified zones, and it was like literally just put the combat on unrelenting and just set up turbo A and never had any issues with any of the combats in the purified zones, even the bosses.
Yeah, it was just those fucking confused guys. That was it. Everything else was just mash A. But those fucking things, god damn, they would confuse the batter, and that was the end of the fight.
Yeah, I don't even know what the game over screen looks like.
I mean, I won't go too hard on the gameplay just because I feel like there's nothing to actually say about it.
I like it more in this game than in Hello Charlotte, and I think it's just because it gets to kind of show off a little bit of character, like in the fights when the bosses talk to you, and then also the battle sprites. I think Hello Charlotte would have been sick if Ether Rain drew like some crazy battle sprites.
I liked Hello Charlotte a lot more for one specific reason, and that reason is that there is significantly less of it.
Hello Charlotte shits on this game, even though I will grant you that the gameplay of Off is better, but that's a very, very fucking low bar to clear.
Yeah, I like this game more than Hello Charlotte personally.
I personally like Hello Charlotte more than this because, oh no, it's. I guess if we're talking strictly about gameplay, I do agree that Off has to take it over Hello Charlotte. But just like as an overall game, I think I enjoyed Hello Charlotte a lot more, just from like the storytelling and the fact that like I actually got attached to some of the characters in that game, even though it took 3 whole games. Whereas in Off, I'm so glad that Seth you brought up like way earlier on that like the first 90% of the story is just inconsequential, because I just remembered when I got to the end of this fucking game, and that cat whose name I can't even remember the name of, like he basically explained the story to all the dum-dums like me. He was like, "Oh my god, how could you kill the mother and the baby? Are you really gonna let the opaque mist of the narrative cloud your judgment so harshly?" And my reaction was like, "Yeah, I'm about to kill a pet too, because like, fuck this."
Yeah.
I think I was in the exact same mental state. Yeah, like you have to make me care about a character in order to make me feel bad for having killed it. Like you can't really have your cake and eat it too in that sense.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that in that regard. I'll probably hold off until I give my rating because I did a lot of my ranting in there about that aspect of it. But this game is just a holistic narrative failure in like every way I can think of, and that's why this game doesn't have shit on Hello Charlotte. Or
I feel
really
like
any of the other Tumblr slop games, to be honest. Like all of them are so much better than this. And yes, I will give this game its flowers for like being the progenitor or whatever, but nah.
I firmly push back against the idea that because I feel like there's a lot of people that would get angry hearing us call the narrative a total failure because I agree with you. But like the thing is, maybe in 2008 that was like a cool and unique twist, which I don't even know if that's true. But like you can't just have a twist that the player is a bad guy and that makes it like a fundamentally good narrative. Like if I take a game like Fury, the narrative of that game is so much better for reasons other than uh the point that it makes at the end that I don't want to get into. Like there's so much better and unique and interesting storytelling in that game outside of that core twist that like the twist almost doesn't even matter because it's telling you more about the world than it is about the character's role in it. And yeah, like again, the first 90% of this game is completely useless and pointless and boring, and every single NPC that you interact with outside of 3 has the exact same face with pointless robotic ghostly dialogue that I don't know if they ever even tried to get me to care about any of them because they all just have the exact same fucking sound effect when you talk to them. None of them say anything interesting or funny or cool. And I don't know. Like, did the big fat guy kind of make me laugh when he was panting because he was chasing you, and it's funny
Mhm.
because he's fat? Yeah, I guess that made me laugh a little bit, but like, that's it.
No, dude. Fuck that. This game's narrative is a failure. Anyone who wants to disagree with me there and talk shit, like go ahead. I will die on this hill. This game, like two things. First, 2008 doesn't matter. People have been writing stories for thousands of years. Like it's video game stories didn't come into existence in 2008, and this one doesn't do anything particularly cool, notable, or otherwise like worthwhile relative to its predecessors. And number two, this was a free narrative that now costs $15 that they didn't do anything with. And I am judging this game based on the fact that the price increase from 2008 to 2025 was infinity percent. And that's just ridiculous. That to me absolutely nothing, like there is no amount of anything in this game that justifies charging that amount of money here. And the reason why the narrative of this game is so dog shit is because it is just a whole lot of. All right, I won't say the first word in my head. It's just pretentious as fuck. Like there's no meat on the bones of this story. This game is just a guy who liked to draw a lot of pictures and a guy who makes some really cool tunes and then figured out how to work RPG Maker but can't really write worth a shit either. And that is just what this game is. There is absolutely no interesting through line in the narrative of this game, and anyone who is making 7-hour YouTube videos of this game is just projecting whatever dumb bullshit they want to put onto this game in order to justify the fact that they like looking at the combat sprites and listening to the soundtrack. Period. Full stop.
For me, it's just a foundational and structural failure with how they wrote the characters in terms of like just how much you care about them. Because the way that I cared about them is that I thought of them as like the same thing as the tieflings from the Grove. And for anyone listening that didn't catch our coverage of Baldur's Gate 3, those tieflings are dead as fuck, and I didn't feel bad about it at all. So that's not a good place for your main characters to be in my to occupy the same space in my mind.
It's like I could even potentially get behind a main character that I don't care about if there's like still something interesting going on, if that makes any sense. Like, if there was a question to be asking with regards to like, what is the batter doing? Why is he doing this? Like, what's going on in the background? You never get anything to indicate that there's any kind of backstory with this character. He's just there and he's purifying, and that's basically what the game is saying at the very end. I just don't see at all what the game is trying to do in that sense, and I don't know if there is a broader point. I would probably venture a guess that even if there is a broader point, it's just not. It's communicated so poorly that it shouldn't have even been a point in the first place.
Yeah, so like here's the thing, right? Is that I actually think okay, before I launch into this, I think that there is one very, very obvious allegory for the whole game. And after I finished it, I was kind of like teetering around some like Reddit threads and YouTube shit, and it seems like pretty much people seem to be more or less in agreement. And I'm curious if you guys did any like degree of post hoc analysis on what you think the allegory of this game might be before I just kind of out and out say it.
I don't know what you mean. If you're talking about like the overarching narrative, no. But I did get curious about stuff like Von Gacy because I'm probably the only person here that didn't know who that was, so I googled it. And then when I saw that he was a serial killer, it actually made me realize that there was actually a pretty cool and more deeper cut, like reference sort of name that was used as another enemy, which was how do you pronounce it? It's like the fucking French name. It's like Gil de Ray or something like that. And the reason why I thought that was like a cooler ref than Von Gacy is because Gil de Ray was like a simp for Joan of Arc, who has like an infamous part of his history being that he killed a bunch of kids. So much so, it like that was so infamous that he was actually like probably the inspiration for a fictional character named Bluebeard in one of those old ass French books that also killed a bunch of kids. And I do want to clarify also that everything I just said I learned from Fate Grand Order, so it may or may not be fully accurate, but I think it's mostly accurate. But that's like the only cool like reference I really understood in the game that I guess could be not necessarily allegorical, but just I don't know, I just thought it was interesting.
Well, first of all, it's really interesting to learn about Bluebeard because I did not know that about Bluebeard, and Mary and I watched a movie about that, and it was like a really fucked up movie. It's like some French movie from the 70s, and having some historical context for that's kind of interesting. But here is what I think is going on as far as like the allegory. And to preface this, many people have asked Mortis Ghost what this game is about, and he just says, I don't know, which is code word for I, there was nothing. I didn't have anything in my head. I just wrote shit. Uh, but I think what's going on here is that the batter is he's just a force of nature, and that force of nature is some illness. Insert illness here. We'll just say cancer for the sake of it. And he is just going through the various layers of Hugo's body, his meat, his sugar, his carbs, basically, and all of that shit. And basically, at the end of the game, switching him off because he killed Hugo. And I think that that's purification is just the batter going through and basically killing Hugo as a some form of terminal illness.
I don't know. I think that's pretty cool.
It would be cool if it weren't for the fact that there is absolutely almost zero through line to interpreting that until the very end of the game outside of what the zones are called. There's really no other alluding to it until you get to the end of the game.
I thought they mentioned that the kid's taking pills in like Act 2 or something. That's when I was like, oh, but I don't remember when that is. I feel like that's somewhere in the middle though. You like look at one of the things on the walls, it's like I don't want to take the pills anymore or something when you're like talking to your dad.
I don't remember, but I totally believe you.
But yeah, no, I agree that there's not enough. There could be like a lot more like cool shit, and they could have like made you care about the characters. Like after you beat an act, and then it just like shows Hugo in the room being like, "Oh, another protector's dead" or whatever they're called, and then it's just like, okay, that didn't do anything. Like I don't know, there could
It's
have been cool
just
shit there.
it's so uninspired.
Yeah, that's my problem. It's like a very, like in my opinion, boring allegory obfuscated behind a bunch of pretentious weirdness for weirdness's sake, which is just it's just not interesting.
Yeah, like the thing is I can appreciate like like a complex allegory in the sense of Thomas like in the sense of what he's describing, but like you have to build it around that, and if you don't have your narrative built around that concept or that scaffold, then it's all just going to fall apart because you slowly realize that nothing makes sense. Like you said, Thomas, the only thing that really like points towards that is the name of the zones and like the four elements and the secret fifth element and whatever. But like what does the character design of Japhet have anything to do with any of that? It's
Yeah.
like it that's like a very specific thing, but like that's one of the guardians. Why like what the hell does it have to do with anything? Am I too dumb? I don't know. I don't care. The game didn't make me care.
Yeah, I think he just kind of learned about historical figures and thought they were cool, and then named things that. Because it's the same with the fat guy being Enoch. Like it has nothing to do with Enoch and the Book of Enoch or anything. It's just there because it's cool.
Yeah, and I mean that sums up the game really is a guy just like put in a bunch of ideas that looked and sounded cool to him, and that's pretty much the game. And
Yeah.
that shit, honestly, it just drives me crazy when people do that. Well, okay, let me back up. It drives me crazy when people do that, and then there's like a whole community of people that worship it because there's just nothing to worship here, other than the music. The music's great.
Yeah, like I appreciate it when it's like small kind of unimportant things, like for example how the big ass robots in Automata are called like Marx and Hegel or whatever. It's just like
Yeah.
a small little reference of like, oh, they're factories. Oh, they are the means of the production. That's kind of funny. But when it is like when you're supposed to draw a broader narrative understanding from it, that's when I just start to be like, you're full of yourself. Get out of here.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid stepping on like too many specifics because I don't want to repeat myself at the end of this, basically. But like this game invented the whole like Tumblr slop formula, right? That like literally every game that some solo dev makes an RPG Maker has followed ever since its inception. And it's like step one, you start with some like LOL XD random aesthetic. Number two, you add a dose of quote unquote unsettling horror to like demonstrate to people like I'm fucking serious about this. Number three, you find some way to break the fourth wall because that's cool and hip and it makes you seem like a self-aware human. Number four, you'll then like gesture vaguely at some kind of theme or allegories involving morality, mortality, creator intent, mental health, what the fuck ever, whatever strikes your fancy. End. And that's it. And that's the loop that all of these games crib from. This game invented it, so sure, but the problem is I hate that invention.
This is actually the only game like that that I've played because like I've heard of like those other games like One Shot, but I've never played them. But from what I heard you guys talking about those games, they're pretty good, right? Or I'm just
It
taking your
can be
word for it,
good.
really.
It can be
I
good.
mean,
This is an example of that formula done wrong, but Undertale is an example of the formula done like at its
yep.
peak.
Yeah, Undertale is the justification for this as a formula even existing in the first place.
Yeah, I agree with that because like I did like a little bit of research because it's been such a long time since I played Undertale, but I remember near the end of the game where the skeleton explains the true meaning of the experience points and leveling, and that revelation made me go like, "Oh shit," because my understanding of the game of like of everything that happened got subverted in like a cool and clever way. Whereas that similar moment in Off where the cat explained the story to me, it was like, I don't care.
Yeah, I think a core difference in Undertale is that game uses diegesis in a very good way that I don't think this game ever used at all.
I almost don't even think it's fair to compare Undertale to this game.
No.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
So I think like a big problem between like a this game and an Undertale and a Hello Charlotte is that um, how do I phrase this? One sec. So games like Undertale and Hello Charlotte, they provide you some kind of emotional anchor that is rooted in something that is not just its sort of inane weirdness. Like there's some psychological anchor that creates this powerful or relatable center point for all of the surrealist shit that's going on. So, Hello Charlotte and Undertale do a fantastic job of that. But the problem with Off is that it just feels like a boat that got set adrift. Um, I could break it down a lot more, but I guess that's just the very like simple explanation for how I feel is that like games like Undertale and Hello Charlotte do a very good job of being more character driven. Like in those games, you've got these talkative, emotional, well, just emotive protagonists that are really just trying to survive in their world, and the plot is more of a vehicle for their like psychological hero's journey or whatever. Whereas this game was just purely plot driven, and you've got like this stoic protagonist who's just like dead set on their goal, and so rather than a character, they're just kind of a tool for the plot, but the plot sucks.
I just want to bring it back to what you were saying about having emotional anchors. And to me, one of the like biggest outright faux pas that this game made was your quote unquote companions. Can someone please, I would love an explanation for why your companions in this game, in this kind of genre that are known for having like really good likable companions. Like go back to fucking Chrono Trigger and you got oh god, I can't remember his name. Frogman? Is he just called Frog?
I think it's just Frog.
You got like Mallow and Gino from Super Mario RPG, every character from Undertale, which I'm not comparing it to, but I'm just giving examples. Like, why did this game choose to forsake all of that for circles? Why?
I think it was some kind of symbolism, but I didn't bother to dwell on it.
Yeah, me neither.
I can't
Yeah,
even remember what their names are.
It's like,
Like
Alpha.
Epsilon, Sigma, Omega.
Epsilon. Yeah.
Oh,
Sigma's not yours. Sigma is one of the enemies that you fight, I think. I think the Queen has Sigma, but yeah.
They're Greek
alphabets.
letters. Yeah.
Like, again, if someone wants to give me some big brain explanation for that and it's like some huge reference to fucking Greek mythology because it has Greek letters, like, okay, go for it. Didn't come across in the game. It was boring. I wish I had a character that talked to me that made me feel like I had a place in the world, but it didn't.
Yeah, that was just one of the many ways this game dropped the ball. IMO. Because, like, not even are they just these, like, weird abstract circles with Greek letter names, but, like, the way that you get them is so anticlimactic. It's just like you walk into a room and there it is. Oh, okay. I have a new party member now.
I didn't even realize I had a party member until I got into combat.
Can you miss Epsilon? I feel like one of them, it's not required to get them, I think.
I was actually just sitting here wondering that, and I don't know if it like triggers something, but it does seem like you could skip it, right? Because Epsilon's the one in that dreadful, awful, terrible cafeteria minefield puzzle, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if you could skip that, but it does seem like you could.
My guess is that, like how this game does, if you don't trigger getting that as a party member, there's just going to be a block in front of one of the doors.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah,
exciting.
I don't think this game is like meant to be a good game. It seems like he kind of just made some shit that he thought was cool, and like that's it. I think if we said all this to, I don't remember his name, some whatever Ghost, then I think he would be like, yeah, that's fair. Like I don't think he would be like, actually, this is fucking really good, and you guys are wrong.
Yeah, but that's my thing though, right? Like if I was examining this under the same context that I did Hello Charlotte, which was a free game that I downloaded for Steam, off of Steam, aside from the one game that costs like $3 for like 9 hours of content or whatever, I would be judging this game under a very different microscope than I do for a game that was made in 2008, had 15 years to sit in this guy's brain, and then they got like, presumably, there were a lot of names in those fucking credits. Like, there was a production team behind this fucking thing, and charged me $15 for it for basically a worse product than what existed in 2008. Like that is the microscope I'm going to examine this piece of shit under.
Yeah, my complete assumption of how this worked is that Fangamer came to him and said, "Hey, we really like your original game. Can we do a remake of it?" And he said yes. That's my guess.
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
Imagine he probably didn't even do anything for the new one. He was probably just like, "Yeah, you guys can do that," and they were like, "Hey, cool, we'll give you X%," and that was it. I doubt he did anything.
Well,
yeah, I was actually curious as to how much he was actually involved with this remake, if at all.
Heavily. I think what I read is he basically drove the ship, but
oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what that means. I don't know if they had like a real budget or like what the scope was or anything. But basically, everything I read said he was basically in control of the project outside of his like production supervisors or whatever.
It would have been cooler to make a sequel.
Here's another thing though that like kind of pissed me off, and I think is maybe what drives some of this thinking is that I feel like I got like cucked by the Steam trailer because they have those like cool animations for like Dadan and all this other shit, and I thought I was gonna get like cutscenes and things with like actual production value, but turns out that was just 3 seconds in the trailer.
That's pretty funny.
Steam trailer looks sick.
They got you. Fangamer is really good at making animations. It's like all one guy, and he does shit like that for like all the Undertale anniversaries and shit. So yeah, you guys got owned by that one talented guy they have.
Oh, god damn it. He even like emulated the style really well.
Yeah.
It's just so weird that they took the effort and the time to like make that, but just why not just put it in the game?
True. It would have been very cool because
Yeah.
that's even like the RPG Maker style where like when you first go, I think Hello Charlotte did it, which like all the time when you go in the room, then it shows you like a still of something, and then it goes into the game. Like all the RPG Maker games did that back then.
I mean, even this game does that, right? Like they show you all of I don't know how to describe them. Some of them look like newspaper clippings, like all the like random pictures of pigs and farms and shit.
Does that happen in game?
Yeah, many times.
Did I have a setting off? I don't remember that at
No,
all.
they're
Just
not
not
like area
notable.
transitions. They're just it's like the quote unquote story being explained to you, or at least the zone story,
Oh,
where
do you
they
mean like at
talk
the
about like
beginning?
no, it's like I think there's like one for
One
each
in each
act,
zone.
right?
Yeah.
Where they kind of explain like the processing of like the raw materials, and there's like
Oh, that shit.
consumerism
Yeah,
and
yeah,
shit
yeah.
like that in Act Two. Yeah, but like they
I
weren't
understand. Yeah.
area transitions.
Yeah.
I was thinking more like when you show up in a room, then it does like what Hello Charlotte did, which it gives you like an animation of like, here's what this room would look like if it's not shitty pixel art that we made, and then you go back into the room rather than just be like this diatribe with fucking random bullshit that the guy thought was cool in the background.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to nitpick those scenes too. They made it so it's like the scene slides and you can like see all the stuff you were describing, and then it stops as the dialogue comes in instead of continuing to slide, and that really fucking bothered me.
One thing we did not talk about at all, probably for good reason, is the puzzles.
I mean,
Discuss.
I wrote down, are they puzzles or are they annoyances? Because they just felt like annoyances. They felt like just the Signalis like room to room shit, but like worse.
I do want to say I feel like some of the puzzles are the only area where I was even somewhat positive, because while they were extremely tedious to like solve in some cases, like I'm thinking of like the kind of like the labyrinth maze that you have to get through, like that's kind of a puzzle. It's not a great one, but like that thing is only annoying because of the random encounters. Like if it weren't for random encounters, I think
Yeah.
all the puzzles in this would be basically fine. But I did want to shout out, I thought the questions you have to answer about the 3 posters, I think that puzzle is actually pretty good.
I hated that one so much. I hated it
Yeah.
so much. It was just so annoying to interface with.
I tend to agree with Seth actually, where I did like some of the puzzles. The puzzles that I didn't like was anything where it was just asking me to write down some numbers, because I mean that's just classic RPG Maker, really super boring shit. Um, Compounded by the fact that my Steam screenshot hotkey crashed the game every time. Um, so I didn't much like those, but I did like some of the other ones, like the one you're talking about with the posters. I liked the one where I had to match the pages with the card suit, even though having to talk to the random guy to buy one to finish it was pretty stupid. Like, there were some decent ideas in the mix insofar as like RPG Maker puzzles are concerned, but yeah, by and large, they're just kind of there.
Did you guys read that story of the cards?
No,
I
I
didn't
did
either.
not.
I mean, I did,
I
but there's so much like broken text and shit that I couldn't really
Yeah.
suss anything out from it.
That's why I didn't, because I looked at 2 of the cards and I was like, there's nothing here. I'm not even gonna try. Like, I assumed eventually the game was gonna be like, here's the story. Like, it was gonna be in a completed book at some point, and then it just never was. So I was like, okay, whatever.
Oh, but Jordan, that's the point, because it's a fragmented narrative, just like cancer.
Yeah, but it's not.
Gay.
The only thing I thought was cool that's related to a puzzle is the save point thing, like loading a different save point. I think that's cool, and I think it would have been extra cool in 2008.
Oh yeah, that is actually something I thought was cool, and that would have been super cool. Was like the end of the game when it gives you the 3 save files
Yeah.
that you have to go through. Yeah, that was pretty neat.
But yeah, all the puzzles, unless you guys name one, I thought that they were just kind of like annoying to interface with.
Oh, I didn't mention the one that was like game quittingly bad. I take that back. I have mentioned it. It's that fucking cafeteria minefield. God, that thing is so fucking irritating for no reason. So annoying.
My favorite part about that was the path where you have to go to the bottom left, that NPC that's there that might just stand there
just
and
blocks
be in your
you.
way and just not move for like 30 seconds.
Absolutely horrendous.
Uh, hmm. I like the concept of this puzzle. I liked the one where you push the statue onto the roller coaster. It
Sure.
wasn't a required one. I thought that one was. It
I think
wasn't
that's cool.
hard. Like
Wait, it
you could like
wasn't
accidentally
required?
do it, but
No, it's not required.
Wait, but how do you get? Oh wait, no. All it does is let you get into that room with the treasures. So
Right.
it is. Yeah,
yeah.
it's literally meaningless.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ben. Like when I did it, I thought I was like progress, and then it didn't give me progress. And I was like, what the fuck? But I think what Seth said is kind of what this game is, where a lot of the game, if not all of the game, is like you look at it and you go, oh, that's a cool concept, and that's the whole game, and that's why it's inspirational
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah, for sure. Like I can understand if you were like a teenager and you already have like artistic proclivities, you like to make music, you like to draw pictures, you have an idea in the back of your mind that you want to make video games, and you played this thing when you were 16, I get it, dude. I totally
Yeah.
fucking get it. Like that fucking whale pops up and you are probably laughing your ass off and thinking, holy shit, this game's the bomb. But 17 years later, as a 36-year-old, and this shit's just cringe.
Yeah. I think the whale thing was funny too, because I was like, "Am I about to get fucking owned?" Because
Yeah,
I
I
thought
had
it
the
was going to
same
be
thought.
like a
I
hidden
thought the whale
secret
was fun.
boss kind of thing. I was like, "Oh, he's about to just kill me," or I thought it was going to be like Zone Under from Final Fantasy VI, where he's going to eat me like fucking Monstro, and I was going to go to a different area. And but no, he was just kind of like a slightly harder than everything else enemy, and which was a big bummer.
Yeah, the whale was dope. Like
Yeah,
that is one thing I do want to heap praise on this game is that like the combat sprites or the enemy sprites are
yeah,
fucking awesome.
I think they're super cool.
Yeah, like all of them are.
It's like a style that they're like no one. I can't think of another game that really does it in that style.
Yeah, because like all of the what are they called? Elson? The Elson, like when they go fucking who's a what's it, corrupto fucko,
Yeah,
and like there's just a bunch of black shit coming out of their
yeah,
limbs. Yeah, those look fucking sweet.
it's very cool.
I would call him cool. Well, why don't we? Because we were kind of dipping into this earlier. Why don't we talk about remakes and remasters? And I just want to start it off by saying, I see remake and remasters as two different things. A remake
Oh yeah.
is like potentially adding a lot of stuff to the game. Like for example, Final Fantasy VII remakes. Those are like practically just. I mean, they are just different games, different story, just with a lot of similarities. Whereas a remaster is basically just porting graphics. I'm thinking of things like the Oblivion remaster. They didn't call that a remake, did they? That was a remaster,
They called it a
I think.
remaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the definition of what a remaster should be, and it was also on Game Pass, which is super nice. Uh, Nintendo is a pretty big offender of making all of their remasters $60 fucking price engines,
Hmm.
which I am not a fan of. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on games like Off that decide to charge when they fundamentally don't add a whole lot?
Yeah,
I
I just want to say before we get into this question that I put this in our OneNote file maybe 30 to 45 minutes after I started the game because the context that I want to keep in focus here again, 17 years later, $15 instead of free. So with that in mind, go ahead, Jordan.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't really know what a remake is because, like, Final Fantasy VII Remake is like it's the same game kind of, but they changed it, which is like a retelling. So is a remake just like a retelling?
So
I
Ben and I were
I
talking about this in the channel the other day, which is like kind of also why it was fresh in my memory. So like for me at least, when we talk about a full on remake, like a Final Fantasy VII style remake, disclaimer: I haven't actually played the games, but I am at least tentatively familiar with them. Um, I generally like my personal preference for games like that. Like the reason I haven't played it is because My preference is for the underlying systems of the game to be like more or less identifiable but modernized or made like slightly more compelling in some way. Um, so like I hate the idea that the Final Fantasy VII remake isn't just like a strictly turn-based game with maybe like a little bit of zhuzh, a little bit of extra je ne sais quoi, which is why I never bothered playing them. But what I really hate is the idea of the story, dialogue, characters, whatever, getting touched in almost every case. Because, like, if you're gonna call yourself Final Fantasy VII Remake, but like everything is like upended and turned on its head, it's not fucking Final Fantasy VII anymore. It's Final Fantasy fucking Accent Core 2 or some shit. Like, it's
I
not the
mean,
fucking
that's
same
not
game.
that's not really inaccurate. But
Um, yeah, that's why like I want the definition because I think Final Fantasy VII is like the only remake that I think is like that's a remake. The other
I
one is
agree.
also Square, which is Strangers of Paradise, which is a remake in the most fucked up way of Final Fantasy One.
One, yeah. Yeah, and that's how I feel about it too, because like Seven remake and Strangers of Paradise, I feel like they're the only remakes that are kind of like that, where they like
Yeah,
change a lot from the original. Whereas I think
Yeah.
most things, even Oblivion and like Demon Souls, like I guess they're technically remakes because they're quote unquote made from scratch. But like, yeah, and I guess that, but I wouldn't call them remakes the same way that's Final Fantasy VII remake is. Because like
right.
when I think of remasters, I think of like kind of I'm gonna be honest. I think of laziness, where all they do is just like upscale the textures and shit
Yeah,
and resolution.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that
I
and that
wish they did that.
that's what I consider a remaster. Like that is
Yeah,
what
Yeah,
I would call a remaster,
yeah,
not a remake.
yeah, and even though I just called it lazy, like I'll still buy and play them, and I think this is where off fails, where they they charge 15, and it technically is a remake because they did remake the entire thing in Unity. But as you mentioned, Thomas, earlier in Discord, it's like you remade this game in a new engine just to have it play like it was in the old engine.
that's crazy. I didn't
Yeah,
know it was in Unity. I thought it was just in a newer RPG Maker
yeah.
version.
You know how I know that because every time I press my screenshot button, I got the Unity crash window.
That's fucking hilarious. That's so weird. But yeah, like I don't. That's why like I want to ask the question. I think it's like interesting. Of like, is a remake like a retelling? Like, what's because like it's what Tom said, right? Like, I didn't like Final Fantasy VII Remake when I first played it because they changed all that shit. But then when you reframe it and you're like, okay, it's not supposed to be the original game. What they're doing is like kind of fucking with that. And then like Ben said, and it's like, oh, it's actually like really cool what they did.
I don't have a great way of explaining this to people that don't play League of Legends, but I kind of see it as what in League they call a I think it's called a VSU versus an ASU. A VSU, the V stands for visual. It's a visual and skill update, meaning it's going to be the exact same champion. They're just going to like redo all of the textures. They might do some like small like quality of life stuff in there. Whereas in ASU, they're like completely reworking the champion from the ground up. It's effectively going to be a new champion when it comes up. And I don't think there's that many remakes, honestly, that really fit into that category. Like Final Fantasy VII, like we've been talking, are like the very far end of what that is. And there might be some others in there. Like maybe you could call
Near
the
replicant.
3DS.
That's like borderline.
Mm,
Nier is weird. I think it's a remaster. It's a
that's
remaster
a
with
weird
additional
one.
content. It's like how
Like,
they would do like Final Fantasy VI Advance, and they would add like a dungeon. That's what I think
I
Replicant
don't
is.
yeah,
know.
like
I
I
feel
would
like they updated the gameplay of that game enough. I'm comfortable calling it a
Yeah, that's
remake.
true. It's yeah.
maybe, but
I would say on the lighter side of remake.
like remakes for sure, I would consider stuff like Ocarina of Time 3DS, Majora's Mask 3DS. I think there was a Super Mario 64 3DS that they made. Those are definitely remakes. Like you can play as like fucking Waluigi. That's just definitely
Well,
a remake.
is that
But
a
a
remake?
remaster, I
I
think
think
so.
that's a
Yeah,
remaster with additional content.
I think that once you start adding additional content, that's when you have to start asking whether or not it's a remake. Like even I called Super Mario RPG earlier a remaster, I think I called it, but you
Yeah,
could call that a remake. Like it has the optional Kulex fight at the end and the boss rush stuff.
yeah.
Um, so like
Which
in
is the
that
worst
sense,
part of
it's
the
kind of
game, but yeah,
murky. But yeah, I think that like if you're calling it a remaster, the goal is to not change anything except for visuals and accessibility. I think
yeah.
that is the goal of a remaster.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of funny. Like I feel like you can almost say we're debating the fucking ship of Theseus here. But I feel like it's like with remakes anyway. I feel like it's a spectrum where there's like a wide range of things I think I would be comfortable calling a remake, like spanning near replicant all the way up to Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is just like a completely different game. Whereas a remaster, I think this might be controversial. It's not well thought out, but I would call something like the DS version of Chrono Trigger a remaster. And
Yeah.
the reason I say that is primarily because there's a barely small amount of new content, but the game is otherwise like more or less exactly the same. And I think that that's like the important part of a remaster. And then a remake, I think, like, again, it can be near replicant to Final Fantasy VII, but I think my thing is that I prefer the near replicant side, where all they do is take the shitty old game, modernize it, make it a little more fun, slap on some extra bells and whistles, upscale it in UE5, and then like slap it on the ass and put it on Steam. Whereas Final Fantasy VII Remake, that shit pisses me off.
Yeah, I think another one that I realized while you were talking is like Resident Evil. They've done an assload of remakes.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like the PS1 to GameCube is like a remake. It's pretty close. And then the Resident Evil 2 to the new Resident Evil 2 they did is a fucking remake.
Yeah, I actually bought one of them. I think I bought the Resident Evil 2 remake, but I haven't. It was on like a super deep Steam sale, and I haven't played it yet.
And then yeah, there's the Silent Hill 2. I don't know if that's a remake or a remaster.
I think, man, that's a tough one. I think that's closer to remake.
Yeah, I
They,
agree because it's like a third person. It's like a Resident Evil 4 third person perspective, whereas the original was like Resident Evil 1, right, with the fixed camera angles.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would
So
categorize that as a remake.
to kind of draw it back though, because I looked over our notes again, Thomas, the question you had in there was what should the expectation out of a remake or remaster be, and how do you apply that now that we've kind of delineated between those two things?
Are you saying like in the context of off?
Sure. Um, like if some like you said you hate Final Fantasy VII remake. I don't know if that's for reasons of it being a remake, but what would you want from a remake?
I'm sorry, from Final Fantasy VII, you're saying?
I think
I
in
mean,
just general.
just like in general. Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, like I was saying before, like it's a whole ship of Theseus argument where like there's a whole lot of different ways that I can look at it. Like, but I think I already said that in general, like my preference out of a remake would be something like Oblivion Remastered, where you're just taking the game, you're making it not look like it's a fucking early PlayStation 1 game. You're taking it into 2025, making it look pretty. You don't touch the story, the characters, or the writing at all, other than if you want to like fix some like shitty translations or whatever. Um, and you don't touch the gameplay mechanics too much. Like, I think what Near Replicant did was great. It took a shit game, modernized it, made it fun. I think what Final Fantasy VII Remake did was fucking terrible. It took what was already fine and could have just stapled some extra interesting stuff on top of that and then did what they did with all of the graphics and UI and stuff. And I guess just release it that way. But instead, that game is like this is why I was saying like to me, it's not even a remake of Final Fantasy VII. It's its own unique entity that
Yeah.
is totally separate from Final Fantasy
Yeah,
VII.
I see what you're saying. I think you'd prefer it if it had like a subtitle like Crisis Core or
Yeah.
whatever, like Crisis Core EX or some bullshit.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I was saying. Yeah,
I absolutely think that the Final Fantasy VII one was a failure of marketing more than anything else. Because yeah, calling it because it should have been they should have come up with something like cooler than to say remake. But obviously, like everyone just wanted a remake, so I think they just tried to exploit people a little bit, thinking that you were getting the same thing, which is what
yeah.
led to people being pissed.
I would I would vociferously argue against it being a failure of marketing. I would say it is a fucking triumph of marketing because they grifted the shit out of people because they spent ass tons of money on that game, and if they had just called it Final Fantasy VII Dump Cubes, no one would have bought that shit.
I think they would have. I think I don't know if it would have been better or not, because I think if they either went with what you want, which is just do the old game but do it with modern standards, and they marketed it that way, they might have sold more. I think they kind of landed in this weird middle area of like they pissed those people off. New people think that they didn't play the old one, so they don't want to play that. So I think they kind of landed in like this weird no man's land of like, who's this for?
Yeah, that's just modern Square in general. Sorry, Seth.
I don't know.
I think who it's for before Seth goes is Ben, because I think that's exactly
and
the kind of thing that Ben
yeah,
would
so
want.
Yeah,
I do
it's-
agree with that. Remake was for me, but then they dropped the ball with Rebirth in
Yeah,
so
but
many
I think
different
that's
ways. I don't
gameplay.
even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gameplay. I don't want to talk. Yeah, I don't want to go into it either because I think that it's like open world failure. But yeah, story wise,
I don't know. I feel like a lot of the more normie coded people that I've talked to, even some people that have actually played Final Fantasy VII, really like the remake.
Yeah, no, they definitely do.
I have
Yeah, like
trouble
I've
with
said this
getting
before, and I do still feel this way. I like the story of Remake better than the original.
Yeah, it's a lot cooler.
And I like that's why I gave the disclaimer that I haven't played Remake. Like I don't want to comment on the actual quality of the game itself because I mean I don't know it. I haven't played it. I'm just commenting on calling it a remake of
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, and it's so weird because like, were they the first to use the remake moniker? Was there any game before Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Resident Evil wasn't officially called Resident Evil Remake, but everybody called it Resident Evil Remake starting in like 2003. Like I remember being in high school and people would say, "Did you play the Resident Evil Remake?" So I as far as I can think of, Final Fantasy VII is the first one to actually put it in the title because I don't think they typically did that.
Yeah, there's probably some shit out there that did, but yeah, that's definitely the biggest one. I would say more than likely.
You know, here's a weird one that I might consider a remake. I don't know if this is answering what you guys are asking, but is Team Fortress 2 a remake?
It's a sequel.
But there was another Team Fortress,
It's kind of
wasn't
a
there?
remake.
It's Team Fortress Classic.
Yeah.
Maybe on launch, but like as time has gone
on
on.
launch.
Aren't all sequels remakes at some point?
Well, no, because it's like continuing the story instead of like making it the same thing, you know?
Did Team Fortress Classic even have a story?
I mean, I don't even think TF2 had a story until they started doing the meet the whatever classes thing. I don't know, something to think about. So I kind of wrapped up some of our other questions in this one, but kind of bringing all of this back to. Hello, lovely viewers. This marks the spot in the episode where Craigbot decided to go into maintenance in the middle of our episode. So I'm just giving you a heads up that the audio quality might sound a little different from this point on. Luckily, Thomas was local recording, so we were able to salvage something. The main thing is that there is just a difference in the sound normalization, so some people might be a little quieter or louder. We apologize for that, but thank you for listening. The question I was about to ask before we were rudely cut off was, what has age done to this game, and are its influences still valid? And that's all kind of in reference to the previous conversation we've been having with like remakes and remasters, and you know, the entire fact that this game cost $15, and it had a remaster that didn't actually update anything. Where are you guys at on that?
My question is like, I guess I don't understand the question. Like, what is an example of a way that something's influence could be rendered invalid?
It's kind of just a question on like kind of what Jordan wrote about, like, put yourself in the shoes of being in 2008 and all these other games came out, and like how this game would compare back then compared to playing it now with all of that being in the past. Like if this game was released in 2025, would it still have the same impact? Assuming other games like, it's the games that it influenced, like Undertale and such, didn't exist. If this game came out today, do you guys think it would still have the same influence?
I'm gonna say no, but it's not just like
I
a
kind of agree
it's not just
too.
like a hater response.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it in like a weird existential way where I think about like where Toby Fox's life would have gone for this one. He'd just be like a cashier at a gas station, and then the people that would be playing off in 2025 are like people that can't even fucking spell and name countries and shit. So like they're not gonna make a generational game. They don't have it in them to do it.
Yeah,
So
go ahead, Jordan.
I was gonna say, to build off like what Ben said, I think Toby Fox is still making Undertale if off like literally doesn't exist. I think it's just not gonna have things like a genocide route. Like it's just gonna be missing a couple things because I think that's what this game does. The game did never I can't imagine off inspired someone to make an entire game. I think off inspired someone to make certain decisions within the game that they're making that was inspired by Earthbound.
I mean, I agree that I think that like Toby Fox would like still try to make a game in lieu of this game existing. It's just like I don't think Undertale would be Undertale. It would be some like totally separate thing. It might be a fucking Madden clone. Um, and the reason I say that is I think like if this game didn't exist, I don't think any of the lineage that ran after it would exist, primarily because of the type of person that would have been inspired by this game. Because I don't think if you deleted it from existence and then just like had released it this past August, this would just be like some fucking dead game with like 3 Steam
Yeah.
reviews, right? Because I think that this game probably captured that like um, middle-aged millennial like 17-year-old on Tumblr vibe that I don't know exists for any other like generation in quite the same way. So I think it like it's a matter of the demographic that it captured that I don't think existed at any time other than like the years 2008 to like 2012 and the people that inspired.
Yeah. I'm looking into his specifically, and apparently it's a lot of like character ideas he got from this game, which I don't understand at all. Like he got like Papyrus and Sands from this game, and I don't see like apparently that's from like Dedan, and I
Yeah, I was
don't.
gonna say it's Sedan.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think that yeah,
I can hear it in some of
which
the
is
music.
surprising to me.
I can
Um,
hear off in some of Undertale's music for sure.
sure. I mean, that's
The thing I
basically what the
have
whole Undertale soundtrack was just like, what games does Toby Fox like? And then he would take the leitmotif that Undertale has and then make it in that game's style.
I feel like the thing I'm having trouble seeing is how a character like Dedan would inspire a character like Papyrus or Sans. Like, I
Yeah.
like visually, okay, they have like the fucking teeth thing, whatever. But like in terms of like the story you want to build around them, how is that? I just don't see it.
I think it's just visually. I don't know if it goes past that. If any speculation on my part would just be projection past that. But visually, I can definitely see it.
Yeah, I think it was like early ideas too before he kind of inserted his own like quirkiness. It was probably more because Toby Fox is a lot about what are the characters doing? Like he's like function first and then he puts character into them. So that's probably like he took the function of the Dan and that's how Papyrus showed up.
Oh, okay, I kind of see that because he's like the protector of the like first area you go to or whatever in
Hmm.
Undertale or whatever he calls himself. I don't remember.
So I think this game in 2008 hits like a lot better. That's like kind of why I wrote it cuz like and that's why in where I wrote like other games that came out in 2008 and the only other like indie game that's even close is like Braid, right? And like Braid was just like it's basically just like a puzzle game that's like it's a fucking allegory to World War II bombing, and it's like, is it though? Is it really that? So I think this game would have been like pretty prolific in a 2008 setting,
I mean, it,
just for the
it
storytelling.
I mean, it's as prolific as it was, right? Because it was released in
Yeah.
2008. But
Yeah, I think if we played this game in 2008, we would like it a lot more than if we play it now. I think the price
I do
tag
agree
also
with that.
matters a lot too.
Yeah, would you if you paid $15 for it in 2008?
I
Yeah,
think
like
probably still because games were all $60 back then.
yeah, and like I said, I've like been very deliberate in mentioning the $15 thing because yeah, you take me back to like 18-year-old me and like put off in front of me and chances are I'm gonna fucking love it. But again, like nearly 20 years later in my 30s paying $15 for this is like a
Yeah.
very 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 different like context.
Yeah, I think paying $15 for it back then is a lot more reasonable than now, just because like now the options that you have available compared to 2008 is like it's a joke. And this game is like got absolutely dumpstered by every game that got inspired by it personally. I don't think any game inspired by this is like even half as like it's at least as twice as good as this game is.
Yeah, I'm curious how many examples of that there are where like the products of inspiration are just like so much better than the original. Because there's got to be like a
And I
lot of
guess like
examples of that across history. The first one that comes to mind is the Rolling Stones. Fuck the Rolling Stones suck.
I guess like if this was the first like weird indie game I played that messed around with fourth wally breaky stuff and like because like I never really played much of Earthbound or much of Mother 3, so even its influences wouldn't have got me much. Or like the kind of like vague storytelling that this game has. Maybe I would like it in 2008. But the problem for me specifically is that I think in 2008 I was too dumb to have understood any of this. This was God, that would have been before I was in high school, so I would have been mega dumb. But
Yeah, I mean, I would have been too for sure. Like this is I would have played this game like 2 years after I watched Eraserhead, and God knows I didn't know what the fuck was going on in that movie.
Yeah, if I played this game when I was 17 and then like I played it and I was like, what's going on? And then I don't know, I went to starman.net, for example, and then they were like, oh, it's about like cancer. Like you're basically playing as cancer. I'd be like, this game's the greatest game I ever fucking played. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like again, 2008 version of me playing this game for free. Like this game and Space Funeral, which I think came
Yeah.
out not long after this game. I don't know the years off the top of my head, but like the holy triumvirate of like these games from that time period would be off Space Funeral and Yume Nikki, right? So all three of
Yep.
those would have like fucking slapped hardcore if I was a teenager, which Toby Fox was. So well, presumably I
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
actually know how old he was, but yeah, like
Yeah, I think he's 1 year older than me. I think he was born in 1990. No, he was born in 91.
so yeah,
But
like
yeah, he's as old as us.
I totally understand the influence because yeah, if I put myself in those shoes, then yeah, I would have loved this game, but I'm not in those shoes. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think age did not do kindly to this game, and also the price tag I think is also like the big oof.
I think I'm definitely with Thomas in the sense that I would have a very different opinion of this game if it wasn't $15. I think that,
Yeah,
like Jesus, Hello Charlotte was easily better value compared to this game.
yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, I would definitely be much more positive on this game, specifically the remake or remaster for you, whatever you want to call it. If it was like $6.99 or $5.99.
Did the original game have the like art slides that go on the side of your screen?
I don't think
No.
so.
No, that's
Oh,
mostly there because like 16:9 wasn't really as standard back then, was it? It was
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
just 4:3 resolution.
Yeah. Yeah, if I
like
had to guess, this game probably, if you played the original one, you have the same accessibility issues as Hello Charlotte. Like you can't
yeah.
resize the window and shit. And that's probably why this exists.
Just
Mm.
to like put the final nail in the context for this. I'm pretty sure I bought Silk Song on release when it was on sale for $15. So
How
Yeah,
about
that's a really good
Fellowship for
point.
$22? And wait, let's see how many hours I have in that so far. 134. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the value comparison isn't exactly fair, when we start doing that, but I do think $15 for this game is too much, and I also think this game's too long. Like,
I
we didn't
think it
really, like,
is.
talk about that, but, like, it's fluffy for no reason.
I think you have to make the value comparison specifically for the remaster because they chose to release it at $15. Like
Yeah, but I
that
don't
is a
like
decision
saying
they made.
I don't like Silk Song is $16, so if a game needs to be equivalent to how good is it compared to Silk Song, and that's the pricing that it should be, I think that's
I
a
mean, yeah,
little dangerous to do.
I think you can definitely get into like a slippery slope that way, but I mean, that's just like a demonstration across two variables, right?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to do that for every game. Like I think it would be stupid to get into a pissing contest of, well, this game gave me this much
Yeah.
for $20, but I feel like first of all, Silk Song is fresh in memory, and second of all, the like vast valley between the two of them in terms of quality and content is
Yeah.
absurd.
And also, if we did the same thing for like Super Mario RPG, I would probably say the same thing for it being $60.
Yeah. And because I think once we get under the $20 price point, it's almost the same price. I think when you get over 20 is where it starts to get egregious. Like the difference between $5 and 15 is extremely negligible. Like if you can afford $5, you can afford 15, right? But the difference between 15 and 60, that's a completely different ball game.
I don't know. I don't necessarily think about it that way. I think I would have had a very different opinion on this game if it was like $4.99 instead of like I would have judged it along a different axis.
Yeah, and
I
the thing is, like with niche genres, you can run up the price because the people in that niche have no other choice. But the problem with this game is that I don't think that this kind of thing is niche anymore. Like,
No,
it's
no
actually
way.
pretty mainstream to make a game like this.
The amount of free RPG Maker games that come out on Steam is probably second to hentai games. Like there are so fucking many RPG Maker games.
Well, in any case, we don't have to beat all of this into the ground. I left some space here for any general Tumblr slop rants that you guys wanted to make if you wanted to do that. Otherwise, we can just jump into rating.
I wrote
just
an
wanted to
essay. I'll just post it in the Discord.
I was gonna say I wanted to start before Top shits on them that like I like these games, so I have nothing bad to say about them. I don't like the fan bases of these games, but it's also because they're half my age and I wouldn't like them no matter what. So it's not really like I'm not supposed to.
So I like them too. Keep in mind that of the games that I described as Tumblr slop, which are what this game, Hello Charlotte, Undertale, and One Shot. I love 3 out of 4 of those games. I guess I wouldn't say I love Hello Charlotte, but the further I get away from that game, the more I like it because it just percolates in my mind constantly. But 3 out of 4 of those games I have very positive feelings towards. So it's more just a descriptor of the mood and the fan base, I would say.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't have a whole lot to say about that particular component personally. Like, I feel like I've played so many like cringe community games and like purposefully avoid them at this point that I just don't let it affect how I feel about them, I guess. I mean, I mean, you're saying you like the game, so I understand, but I don't know. To me, they're pretty easy to ignore with certain. Let me put it this way: I find the community engagement, quote unquote, surrounding something like Automata and Signalis way more gross than the community engagement with games like this. I think.
Why, just
That's
in terms
interesting.
of horny posting, you mean?
It's like the deeper complexity a game has, the more I would expect from a community. Something like Off or even Hello Charlotte, maybe Undertale, maybe I'm not going to expect as much from those communities because it's just like, yeah, I mean, they just played this game when they were 12 years old before they went to high school and they thought it was fucking sick ass and they had a lot of fun with it. Like, okay, I don't want to judge that too hard. But like something like Signalis, like you're not playing that at 10 years old and having any kind of reasonable understanding of it. You know, you're playing this when you're like a young adult, and I have a slightly higher expectation for the kind of discourse you're going to engage in, I guess.
Signalis is a weirdly unique one because it's like such a minor point of the game, I feel, and they just latch the fuck onto that and dismiss the rest of the game. Nier, I mean, it's like that shit's in your fucking face. So I can
Yeah.
understand that if you like Nier just because 2B's hot, like that's kind of the point of the protagonist.
I'm built different. I like the original old man Nier. That's my favorite Nier, and that's why I haven't played Replicants, because it doesn't have the old man.
I do think the old man relationship is better than the brother relationship, but I
Yeah,
think
for
that's
sure,
a
because the
whole
brother one is
episode.
creepy.
Yeah, I think that's a whole episode in and of itself we could have.
Well, I guess like why are you casting stones there, Seth? I guess is my like curiosity.
How do you mean?
So what makes the communities like Signalis and Nier like more egregious than Tumblr slop games? Like specifically, I feel like I didn't hear like specific reasons other than like the implication that people just horny post.
I don't know. I thought I answered it. Like if the game has like incredibly complex themes that it's trying to explore, then to just focus on the ass that has been presented in front of you is more insulting than if you were to just like make some fan art of Toriel because you're like trying to engage in a little bit of like furry bait. Like I don't like it when these games have a lot to say and it seems to just get brushed off by the people that seem to love it the most.
Okay. Yeah, I mean I can understand that, but I also think that like if we're looking at it in terms of like things that would be at the top of a game's subreddit, right? I think it's just a lot easier. I think that there's maybe just like a degree of bias there, maybe, because someone just scrolling through their Reddit feed is just going to be like, oh, lesbians, upvote, bam. Whereas someone who like makes some like 5,000 word effort post, like that's not going to get like as absorbed in the doom scrolling mix, right? So it's just easier to react to the horny posting, but I do think that the people that would react to the horny are the same people that would also enjoy the 5,000 word post. It's just like the things that float to the top are the things that people can more easily like digest quickly, I guess is kind of what I mean.
I don't know. I just it might be a broader problem that I have with Reddit because that my more extreme opinion might be that like I think that communities should be more heavily moderated in what they allow on their subreddits. And if you are a moderator of a subreddit and it's just getting fucking flooded with fan art and shit, and you want it to be a subreddit about like the discussion of the game instead, then just delete the fan art posts. So all that's telling me is that the moderators of these subreddits want it to be the former rather than the latter.
Yeah, and I guess like I've been in subreddits before where they like relegate shit like that to like one day a week, right? Like post your fan
Yeah.
art on Mondays or whatever.
Yep.
In either event, I don't really have like a super strong opinion on that necessarily because like um I guess because it's just really easy for me to sidestep the cringe and find the stuff that I want to seek out. And maybe that's just like going back to being like a closeted anime fan as a teenager who, like, I had absolutely no desire for anyone to ever know I was an anime fan because of all the horny posting and weirdos. But, like, I would seek out the content that I want and just ignore the rest. Nowadays, I don't
Yeah.
give a shit, but back then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, my opinion on this would remain true when I go to WeebCon and I see very cringe things. Let's just say.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's really easy to like compartmentalize a game's community and the people who like it, and then like the actual quality of the game itself. Because like a good example of this is Five Nights at Freddy's. I think that the first four of those games are actually like really fucking good, but they are completely ruined by the people who like those games, and by people I mean children.
Yeah, for me, it kind of depends on a number of factors. I think I think a terrible cringe community can ruin a game for me before I play it, but if I play the
Right.
game and discover the community is cringe afterwards, that won't bother me. Although
I
I
feel like
will,
you went through that with like Silk Song, where you like started to
yeah,
hate Silk Song because of the people talking about it
yeah,
before you
for
played it.
sure. I hated all that fucking, what do they call it? Skong posting or some shit.
I have no idea.
I'll
I don't know what you're
admit,
talking
Shaw?
about.
I'll admit, I became like stupid as fuck, and actually, like, I still browse the Silk Song subreddit, and some of that shit's actually funny now. So, I mean, I got absorbed into the Borg, but like,
Part of the problem.
I was actually gonna say that the thing that runs counter to that was Signalis, because I played like 30 minutes of Signalis, and then I was like, I'll just browse the top post of the subreddit just to see, like, I'll avoid spoilers, it's all good. And it was just all like fan art lesbian shit, and I was like, huh, okay. And I was really surprised that the game did not have more of that, let's just
Yeah,
say, like, based on my experience.
because I
Yeah, like
remember.
that's a yeah, like that's just kind of what I'm talking about. If I'm fresh off of a game and I'm like, oh my god, this might be one of my new favorite games ever. I think the same thing happened with Automata, and I talked to Thomas at the time about it. Like the first thing I want to do is I just want to go to subreddits and I want to start like pouring through discussion of the game. Like movies, it's really easy to do it with because more often than not, people aren't going to be super weird about it, especially with new movie releases. But a new game comes out, people see anime ass, and that's all they're going to talk about for a fucking year.
I don't blame them. I completely understand that. For Nier, I completely understand it because again, it's so in your face and like
Yeah,
in completely intentional.
and
Signalis, it's like it's beautiful in the game, but then people went nuts with it. There's nothing like Signalis. I don't think is warrants that at all.
yeah, Nier is very horny by design, so yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Um, but again, I think that most of that problem is just with like the format of Reddit and how it works, and basically what I
yeah.
described. It's a lot easier to scroll past 2B's fucking ass in your face and be like, I like that, upvote,
It's
than it
definitely not
is
like a
to like
discussion
absorb
platform.
content. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a discussion platform like at all.
Hold, wait, hold on. I have to ask this question, and we don't have to linger on this too much longer. I'm sorry. Do you guys actually upvote ass pictures when they get posted?
Fuck yeah.
I don't upvote anything. I like forget that's a feature sometimes.
Sash, you actually
Fuck yeah.
upvote that shit.
That's
I mean,
great.
One
it
thing I
depends on what
will
it is. I'm,
say,
I'm not going to say all of them. It's not like I see ass, I upvote, but it depends on the
Systematic.
context. But for comedy, fuck yeah.
yeah, one thing I will say is based on this discussion you guys just had, absolutely under no circumstances go to any fake community at all.
Oh Jesus. Uh-oh.
I mean,
Uh-oh.
that shit's anime adjacent, so yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a hentai, so
Yeah, literally has
Yeah.
hentai roots, so you already know.
Well, anyway, we've spent plenty of time shitting on the Tumblrites. Why don't we jump over to ratings? Any closing thoughts before we do that?
Top to bottom
I
game
think I'm good.
sucked.
Top to bottom game sucked. Thomas wanted to go last on ratings, so we can start with Jordan.
But yeah, I don't really want to repeat a lot of things, but like I think the game is cool. I think it'd be great if it didn't cost $15, and I'm glad that the gameplay of the game was easy to get through, and they even had like the unrelenting combat speed, which was fucking awesome. Like that's something that we didn't talk about, but I think that that was super cool. Where like literally the game doesn't even wait for animations; like the enemies just go, and then the ATB keeps going. I think that that's actually badass. Um, yeah, we kind of talked about narrative and everything, so I don't really need to go over that again. So like, yeah, it's a fine game. I wish I didn't have to pay for it. It was definitely like a super influential game, and like if you want to make a game like Earthbound, play this game because you will definitely get ideas to use in your game. And it was fine. Like it's not great, but it's fine. So for me, it's a 4.5.
That was
Wait,
so
you
I
said
much
think
that
I
higher
would be
than
still
the
I thought.
shot.
higher?
Wow.
Oh, 1 pointer, baby.
So much higher than I thought.
Well, see, because I think you all like Hello Charlotte better, and if you do, then you should be lower than 4.5.
I could just read I could just read the room from the way Jordan was talking about the game that he was gonna like it more than we did. So Yeah, but yeah,
What do you
I
think,
knew I was gonna hate it. As I was playing it, I was like, Ben fucking hates this game.
just like hypothetically, and you don't have to put a ton of thought into it. If this game came out this year, with games like Undertale not out, or like the things that inspired, what do you think you would rate
If it's the exact same game, it's like a 0. Like, it's probably like a 1.5. But, like, I would imagine if those games came out first, it would look a lot different.
That's
Yeah.
fair. And I'm not asking you to like, commit to that hypothetical. I was just curious.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a 0. It would be like a 2.5, I think.
Oh, interesting. Ben, why don't you go next, Ben?
It's definitely higher than Logic Bombs. Just had to
So,
say that.
yeah, I'll just rip off the Band-Aid. It's a 6 out of 10 for me. Mostly because it's
I told you it's 2 lines in a fucking anyway. I fucking told you.
Fucking nailed
I love
it.
that. I love that. Like, it sounds like you were screaming in the distance, like you were so fucking mad that I rated it. What I rated it.
He guessed
So
2.5.
Oh
So
shit.
funny. Because I was like, if he hated Signalis, he's gonna fucking hate this game. But I think
So,
Signalis just hit the fucking right note for you to hate it.
Yeah, the thing is, when it comes to like, I know that everyone's going to disagree with me on this. This is very much like the hottest imaginable take that will be said tonight. But when it comes to like story and narrative, I feel like I played the same game 2 weeks in a row. But the difference between Signalis and Off is that Off asked very, very, very little of me, so I didn't resent it as much.
That's so funny.
So
Oh shit.
it just gets the craftsmanship points that I give to people like Matthew Matosis, and that's why it's a 6 out of 10.
That's so funny because they did less. You liked it more. That's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh
shit.
my god, that's funny.
I gotta find like pretentious games to pick now because I think that's what Ben hates. We're gonna play all Jonathan Blow's games.
All right, well, as for me, I don't know. Maybe I'll punch down a little bit. I fucking hated this game. I enjoyed it. Okay, it wasn't like Logic Bombs where like there were things about it that pissed me off and I wanted to play it just to like refine my opinion of why those things were pissing me off. I didn't want to play this game. It pissed me off, and I continue to not want to play it because the actual act of playing it for me was just so mind-numbingly boring. There is nothing less fun to me than looking at another monitor while I'm just spamming Z and hearing the fucking shrieking sounds that the enemies are making. That is just so egregiously horrible to me as an experience. And it got points here and there for the music. I kind of shit talked it earlier, but I thought for the most part it was pretty good. Thomas mentioned some of the like whispery zones that were pretty good, and I did like that. Um, the prose was terrible, particularly from the last judge. None of the I don't know, like I guess visually some of the characters were memorable, but in terms like I can't remember a single line that Dadon said, not a single goddamn one. And when you have a game that for me is miserable to play and unmemorable, and he charged me $15 for it, I can't give you very many points. I have to give it some credit though. I'm not going to give it a fucking 1 because it did come out in 2008, and I just want to be fair in judging the 2008 game and the remaster game because we're kind of doing both. We're not really like delineating them. So I'm just going to give this game a 2.5.
I think I nailed that.
Ah,
Oh, I got a 2.
nuts.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I think your question. I think the 2008 context is like very important, specifically from like basically what we talked about, just like from an influence perspective. Because like if this game came out today, it'd be like so bad.
I don't know. I just look at a lot of the like timeless games that are like truly masterpieces. Like look at Chrono Trigger. That game's never gonna age. It's like always gonna be the masterpiece that it is. One of my favorite games ever is Majora's Mask. I don't even like the 3DS version as much. I like the original. And like I don't know. To me, if it really is a good game, it'll stand the test of time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just think this game would be like even worse if it was today. Like today, it would be very, very, very bad.
Oh yeah, this game would get like lost in the sea of shit, and no one would ever
Yeah,
hear about it.
it would have to have like a lot more to it, like to conform to the standards that indie games are today.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I still just hold this game up to the standard of 2025 because they charge me money for it, and like lineage be damned. I'm not gonna rate a game based on how good the things are that came after it. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah.
yeah,
I sipped on some haterade for this game.
Honestly, if anything, that just like it's kind of hard to look at objectively, but it kind of makes me dislike it more because I just think like, well, these games, like you could have been these games, completely unfair, but I don't know. That's kind of how I see it
Yeah,
sometimes.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely not fair because like we can go and like look at a game like Pong, right? Pong is a dog shit game. No one ever wants to play fucking Pong, but without Pong, you don't have Windjammers. So yeah, I guess that's kind
I
of how
mean,
I feel
Pong is
about it.
sick.
I think there's also like a difference though. Like Seth said, like if you have a well-designed game top to bottom, it's timeless. This game is not that. This game is just good ideas that gave greater designers better games.
Yeah, but I'm just pushing back on the idea that like we should retroactively like penalize a game because of what its lineage did afterwards. Because I mean, Undertale came out what 7 years after this game or something. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hold a game up to the standard like sins of its father. You know?
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not saying we should do that. I'm just saying I think it's really difficult to not do that post
Yeah,
facto.
yeah, for sure. I get that.
Well, go ahead, Thomas. You're the last one, as you asked.
All right. Well, let's be perfectly clear that I think my final score for this game is actually going to be kind of generous based on like how I think I actually feel about it. And it's mostly going to be on the back of the 2008 soundtrack that I had to fucking manually mod in. Um, and as I've said numerous times, I'm also judging this as a game with a modern production team behind it. Since there's like a million people in the credits, it was released through like a legitimate publisher, and I had to pay $15 for it. So I'm not going to judge this game on the same merits I might have had for the 2008 version, which I think was just like the two people that made it or whatever. I don't actually know. But anyway, this game felt like an active failure. Uh, it takes a game that desperately needed some kind of modern overhaul of its just super lame ass gameplay systems, and instead it did absolutely fuck all with it. All while messing with the few things that did work, like the music. Again, not going to hold that against them. Like, I know that there's reasons behind why that was out of their control. Um, so I guess at the end of the day, it's kind of ambiguous if I'd hold that actually against them. But again, this is a product I paid money for, so the fact that I still got a substandard product compared to the 17-year-old version is still just fucking crazy to me. But realistically, the remaster isn't the real problem with this game. The real problem is that off itself, when it is divorced from its 2008 era cult status, is just a hollow, pretentious shell of a game. This game is patient zero of Tumblr slop. It is the blueprint for the formula that we've seen dozens of times since. I kind of mentioned that before. You start with some quirky LOL spork aesthetic. You add that dose of unsettling horror. You break the fourth wall with a meta narrative about the player or some shit, and then you end the game while leaving the player with some sort of like post hoc requirement to go do some academic homework to justify that experience. Like, my core issue is this game demands to be analyzed like a complex piece of art, but there's no fucking meat on them bones. This game is weird for weird's sake. The framework's built on this cold, abstract, purely symbolic concept with absolutely no emotionally human entry point. It's a scatterbrained mess of sprites and purifying smoke that sidetracks itself from any central narrative in any meaningful way, even after we do the 5 minutes of post hoc analysis. So, the emptiness of this game is reflected in every single part of it. Our protagonist, the Batter, is a dry, boring void. He is a stoic, simplistic tool for a plot that barely exists. While the combat art is really good, points there for sure, everything outside of combat is just this sequence of boring, sterile fucking rectangles. And then once you get to the end and everything kind of crystallizes into what the plot actually was, it just lands with a thud because the writing is just so poor and unengaging that any sort of oh shit moment you might have was just completely undermined by virtue of just everything leading up to it being bad. So, games like Undertale, Hello Charlotte, One Shot, etc., they prove that this formula can work, but only because they anchor their surrealism and weirdness in something that is substantive. This game has no anchor. It is just a shitty, hollow artifice that makes abstraction and surrealism, and it mistakes those things for depth, and thousands of people seem more than willing to justify the fact that they like the pretty sprites and the cool soundtrack by projecting some untold number of layers to the narrative that simply do not exist. It's an influential, important relic, but it is a terrible, boring game. And again, the only thing of value here is the original soundtrack and the art sprites, and the remaster couldn't even get the soundtrack right. So this motherfucker is a 2.0 out of 10.
Wow, I did
Damn, I
not think Thomas
overshot
would be
with
lower than me.
everybody.
I did not think Thomas would be lower than me.
I hated this game. This game tramples on everything that I love by trying too hard and not having the skill to pull it off, which is very mean to say. So I apologize, but it's true.
I can't say I disagree. I think it's a shame when, for example, there are so many games that are inspired by Earthbound, and you go back and play Earthbound, and you're like, oh wow, this game is like still actually like pretty goddamn good. And then you go back to a game like this that inspired a bunch of games, and it's just slop, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and it is, again, important to recognize that a game like Earthbound has an entire team of like career professionals behind it, and this game was just a couple of French dudes. But again, I'm evaluating it along an axis of having a team behind it for the 2025 version, and in that sense, this game fucking fails.
Yeah, I basically just treat this game like 2008. I don't even think that this like remaster is anything past like a technology update, so that's why mine's like a little bit higher than if it were to come out today.
Well, guess what, fellas? This game beat Logic
SGG?
Bombs.
Hell yeah.
In the negative or the positive
In the
direction?
lowest
Did you
Super
update the scores?
negative. Yeah.
Someone updated
Ooh,
the scores.
brutal.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, it was me. I just didn't know if we did double work. I wanted to make sure we didn't.
I was actually in the middle of doing it, and then I couldn't remember your score, so I closed the window, and then I opened it again. I was like, wait, why are these here now?
I'm just kind of glad we're all pretty consistent in rating pretentious bullshit as it should be, like we did with What Remains of Edith Finch. It's over. Thank God. We can finally turn this game off.
I
But
already
we're playing some
uninstalled
games
it.
next week. Well, Ben, I think you're picking the next 2 games. Is that right?
Yeah, so the primary game that we were playing is Fate Stay Night Remastered, but there will be an intermezzo game of Jigoku Kisetsu. I'm sorry, it's called Sense of the Seasons in American. It is a freeware shmup by some random dude that I don't know. I played it in the past. It was really short and it was free, and I thought it not to like color anyone's opinion of it, but because it was free, I felt that it punched way above its weight class because of that, and I liked it. And I'm just curious what you guys will feel about a genre that I assume that I guess Jordan plays a lot of them, but maybe everyone else it might be you might not be very familiar with Toho's game, and now you will be.
I played a lot of shmups in like Well, like specifically, I played a lot of Toho in like the 2006 to 2008 realms. So, like I played a lot of Perfect Cherry Blossom and what does EOSD stand for? Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. That sounds
Devil,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, the one that I actually liked the most was fucking Shoot the Bullet, but I will be interested to talk about shmups with you guys, just because I feel like it will be an opportunity for me to shut the fuck up and listen for once.
It's been a long time since I played a shmup, so I think I'm going to be in a similar category.
Yeah, you guys gotta come with the heat.
I was interested in hearing your guys' opinion on difficulty.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I don't have a good frame of reference for anything that's not like a 20-year-old Toho game, so.
With all that out of the way, that was off, and we'll see you lovely viewers next week.
God, this game sucked. I gotta get that last punch in.